What if I told you that Jamaica's education system is still colonized? That even after 60 years of independence, we're still learning more about Queen Elizabeth than Queen Nanny, more about Shakespeare than Walter Rodney, and more about the British monarchy than Marcus Garvey's vision for self-reliance. By the end of this video, you will understand why Jamaica's education system needs a radical shake-up, why decolonization is long overdue, and how an Afrocentric curriculum infused with the philosophies of Garvey, Malcolm X, and Bob Marley could finally free our minds. Stick around because what I'm about to say might just change everything. The problem. Let's rewind to 1834. Slavery is abolished, but instead of real freedom, Jamaicans are handed an education system designed to shape them into good, obedient workers for the British Empire. Fast forward to 1962, independence. Jamaica cuts ties with Britain, but guess what stays? The colonial curriculum. We're still reading European classics, still learning history through a British lens, but still being told that civilization started in Greece instead of Africa. So this is where we introduce the mental enslavement of the minds of the Africans. So now we are shift from chattel slavery to mental enslavement. So that's the real purpose of receiving a colonial education. Enter the heroes. Now, if we were writing the script for Hollywood, this is where the resistance rises and leading the charge. The real MVPs: Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Walter Rodney, Martin Luther King Jr., and Bob Marley. Marcus Garvey preached self-reliance and Africa for Africans. But guess what? The British labeled him a threat and exiled him. Malcolm X warned us about the dangers of mental slavery, assassinated. Walter Rodney wrote how European underdeveloped Africa, a book so dangerous they banned it in Jamaica, suspiciously assassinated. Yes, that Walter Rodney book was banned in Jamaica by Hugh Shearer, former Prime Minister of Jamaica, under the Jamaica Labour Party. Bob Marley sang about emancipating ourselves from mental slavery. He got shot before a peace concert. See a pattern? Every time a black leader tried to decolonize our minds, someone or something shut them down. But their message lives on. Most Jamaicans were never taught about African civilizations like Mali, Kush, or Great Zimbabwe. Were you? Be honest and let us know in the comments. The call to action. So what does a decolonized education system looks like? Picture this. History classes that start with Mali, Ghana, and Songhai, not Columbus. Literature classes featuring Nigerian novelist and poet Chinua Achebe, Kenyan author and academic Ngugi wa Thiong'o, and Lorna Gibson, not just Dickens and Shakespeare. Science classes that teach about Imhotep, the African father of medicine, not just Western discoveries. Economics courses that analyze Garvey's Black Star Line alongside Adam Smith. How about then teach the kids about Mansa Musa, the richest man in the world who ever lived? Imagine if every Jamaican student knew about the Maroons' guerrilla warfare, the Morant Bay Rebellion, and the African kingdoms that existed before slavery. Imagine learning Patois as a legitimate language instead of being told it's broken English. That's real independence. But of course, there's pushback. Critics say this would erase Western achievements. and promote division. But here's the irony. Jamaica has been erasing African history for decades. Maybe it's time for some balance. Other countries are already doing it. Ethiopia teaches its own script. South Africa has decolonized part of its curriculum, and even Barbados is ditching the British monarchy. The question is, will Jamaica be next? It's time to demand change. Share this video, start the conversation, and tell the Ministry of Education that Jamaica deserves a curriculum that reflects our story. Like, comment, and let's make this movement impossible to ignore. If Jamaica fully decolonized its education system, what's the first thing that should go? Columbus, British monarch history, Shakespeare? Let's debate down in the comments. Why is it important to decolonize Jamaica's education system? Jamaica's education system was designed during colonial rule to serve the interests of the British Empire. Even after independence, much of the curriculum remained unchanged, prioritizing European history, literature, and perspectives while downplaying or outright ignoring African and Jamaican contributions to world history, philosophy, and innovation. Decolonizing the system is crucial for cultural identity, self-reliance, and national progress. Disadvantages of a colonial education system. 1. Mental slavery and inferiority complex. When students are taught primarily about European achievements while African history is neglected, it reinforces the idea that progress and intelligence are Western concepts. This breeds self-doubt and mental slavery, where Jamaicans subconsciously believe they must look to foreign powers to or for validation and solutions. Sounds familiar? Yes, this is why our leaders, our politicians, are not nation builders. They don't know how to build a nation from the ground up, because we receive a colonized education and we were taught by teachers who also received a colonized education. So basically we have slaves teaching slaves. Our politicians suffer from inferiority complex. That's why they cannot innovate, they can't do nothing, they can't build no road. They have to go to white man or Asian man to build road and highway for them. That's inferiority complex. They're not believing in themselves. They're full of self-doubt. I am pretty sure civil engineer course is taught up at UE. So why we can't build our own highways? Just something to think about. 2. Economic dependency and brain drain. The colonial system trained Jamaicans for servitude, not leadership or self-sufficiency. Today, the best and brightest are encouraged to migrate for better opportunities instead of building Jamaica's economy. Whenever now listen to me, this is going to be a very real deep dive into the psychology behind receiving a slave education. That's why you see people like Dr. Nigel Clark, as brilliant as he is, I believe he should have stayed in Jamaica, but instead he left Jamaica and turned his back on his country. Figure work for Bakra, the IMF, a multilateral institution where known for give loans to developing third world countries only for hold them down. It's not real help. Really want to understand and get what me I say now. That's why me talk like how me talk, because I understand the system. That's why you always hear me say I am not a fan of your JLP or PMP leaders, because I know their mindset. 3. Lack of representation in learning materials. A child who sees no role models from their own history in textbooks is less likely to aspire to greatness. So basically what this I say is, because your color is not associated with greatness in the textbook. Your color is not represented in the textbook. All you see are images images of Bakra looking people associated with and tied to greatness. So if you only see white images of greatness, it'll tell us say your color cannot come to nothing because your color no exists in the textbooks. Them where teachers say this greatness was achieved by Columbus or any other Bakra looking person. So it make you have this inferiority complex, self-doubt again. You not believe in yourself. You believe that greatness can only come from people who look like Bakra. Hence then give you a white Jesus. And this is not me talking bad about Christianity, but it ties into the whole psychological warfare on how they attacked the minds of we, the Africans. Jamaican students are still learning Shakespeare instead of Garveyite philosophy, and European explorers instead of African civilizations. And when your color is due represented in said textbooks, it's associated with and tied to demoralization. Your color is associated and tied to slavery and colonization. That now go uplift no African child. It all teaches say your place in the world is servitude to Bakra's race and his people. Get the psychological warfare. That's why there's a lack of representation as it associated with African greatness. People have talked about the Pythagoras theorem. Where did Pythagoras learn that? He learned that in Egypt from the master teachers, the black African master teachers in Egypt. Africa had the greatest education system. Africa had the universities. Everybody from Greece, the most famous Greek philosophers, come to Egypt, come study. Go check and learn your history. The same history where them a hide from we. Greek architecture is actually Egyptian architecture because that's where they got the knowledge. Popular to contrary belief, Egypt was the greatest black civilization in the entire ancient world. That's why when you go down to Egypt and you look on the Sphinx them, you see them shoot off the big broad African nose and the lips them. And deliberate attempt to hide your history and your greatness from you because we can't make the slaves them know say are them responsible for civilization. And when you see Egyptian statues in a European or American museums, the nose them always chisel off to hide the black African features because all the pyramids were built by black people. Egypt is North Africa. It's in Africa. So we actually taught the Greeks, the same Greeks where white people have hype up as the people them were discovered civilization or democracy, which is a lie because we taught them, we educated them. Those are the things that we need for teach our children. Not no Christopher Columbus bullcrap. 4. Distorted history and whitewashed narratives. British colonial education glorified figures like Columbus while demonizing African resistance fighters like Paul Bogle and Nanny of the Maroons. Without decolonization, false narratives persist, weakening the pride and confidence of future generations. That's why uno can see Messi come to Jamaica wadia and instead of the locals cheering for Cavalier and supporting the local base Cavalier football club and Rudolph Speed, them a cheer for Messi and a pray for Messi score 10 million goal upon Jamaica and laugh after Jamaica. That is because we still suffer from a slave mindset. It's like the deification of Bakra looking people. We deify them. We turn them into deities. We are worship them. Nowhere in the world Messi never go play in a football and see the home team a cheer for the visiting team. Him never witnessed that yet. You want to go Argentina and find out say they not like yes. Argentinians don't like African looking people. Go check the history. Go check the real history of Argentina. 5. Suppressing indigenous languages and culture. Patois is dismissed as broken English rather than a legitimate language with its own grammatical structure. Meanwhile, students in France and China are taught in their native tongues, which strengthens national unity and identity. I wonder if you now listen to the psychological breakdown and the impact where it have on we, the melanated African minds, when we received a colonized education and speaking a colonized language as our first language. The long-term impact of not decolonizing the education system. Cultural erosion. Future generations will continue to see their African roots as secondary to Western ideals. Economic underdevelopment. The system produces job seekers instead of job creators, preventing Jamaica from becoming self-reliant. This is why you don't see Jamaican politicians being innovators, because they too received a colonized education. That's why you see them a bow and submit to Trump. When you see the rest of Caribbean countries are unite and I say, take back your visa, they don't care about that. They might keep the Cuban doctors. Jamaica decides say, we are get rid of the Cuban doctors, we are bow to Trump because we want to keep the US visa. That's the impact of receiving a colonized education, a slave education. It doesn't make you unite and come together. It teaches divisiveness, social division. A Eurocentric education system alienates many Jamaicans who cannot relate to its content, leading to further class disparities, political and psychological dependence. Without critical thinking based on Jamaican realities, people remain vulnerable to neocolonial influence and corruption. Neocolonial influence, like where you see Trump I tell we say we get rid of the Cuban doctors, or else we take on a visa. Pay attention. You know, if you understand, say people like Trump know very well say we received a colonized education, and he know the psychological negative effects that it has on us. He knows that we were taught to be obedient and subservient, and we were taught to be in servitude to his race forever. These people know these things. Only you, the African who received the slave education, don't have a clue what's going on. You were bred to remain in servitude to Bakra's race and his people. Final thoughts. Decolonizing Jamaica's education system isn't just about changing textbooks. It's about rewriting the narrative of who we are, who we value, and where we're going. Some people say Patois isn't a real language and shouldn't be taught in schools. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. How to practically implement decolonization in Jamaica's education system. Decolonizing Jamaica's education system requires systematic reforms at all levels, from curriculum design to teacher training and language policy changes. Here's how it can be done. 1. Curriculum overhaul, centering African and Caribbean history, replacing Eurocentric narratives with African civilizations like Mali, Ghana, and Kush. Teach pre-slavery African history to show the advanced cultures that existed before colonization. Highlight Caribbean resistance movements, Maroons, Morant Bay Rebellion, Haitian Revolution. Move beyond Columbus and British Empire. Prioritize Marcus Garvey's Pan-African vision. Literature. Shift from Shakespeare and Dickens to Caribbean and African writers. Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart. Ngugi wa Thiong'o, Decolonizing the Mind, Lorna Gibson, Claude McKay, Louise Bennett Coverley include oral traditions, folklore, and reggae music as storytelling, Bob Marley's lyrics as poetry, science and mathematics teach contributions of African scientists and philosophers. Imhotep, the father of medicine, highlight agricultural science from maroon communities, herbal medicine, organic farming, incorporate Afrocentric mathematical methods and economic principles rooted in self-reliance. 2. Language policy reform, elevating Patois and African languages. Make Patois an official language in education alongside English. Exactly. Nobody now say get rid of English. I know that we are say. We are preach decolonization of the education system because we have yet to be decolonized. We don't go through that process there yet. When it all start, teach Swahili, Yoruba, or Akan to reconnect with African roots. Exactly. Get some teacher from Africa to teach with African language from the primary school level straight to tertiary level. So we can fluent in the African dialect, like the African Bantu language. Introduce bilingual education, Patois and English, to improve literacy. Implement Jamaican language studies to preserve cultural expressions. 3. Decolonization teaching methods. Make learning relevant. Interactive learning. Replace rote memorization with project-based and experimental learning. Community-based education. Use elders and cultural practitioners as guest educators. Reggae and dub poetry in learning. Infuse music and spoken word in classroom discussions. Land-based learning. Use local agricultural and herbal medicine knowledge in science lessons. 4. Teacher training and decolonize pedagogy. Revamp teacher training programs to remove colonial biases. Train educators on African-centered teaching methods and cultural sensitivity. Create scholarship for Afrocentric education specialists. 5. Policy reform and government action. Mandate Afrocentric curriculum development in the Ministry of Education. Establish a national education task force to oversee decolonization efforts. Incentivize publishers to create textbooks that reflect Caribbean realities. Fund research and development for decolonized learning materials. 6. Digital and media integration. Develop Afrocentric educational apps for students. Produce YouTube and TikTok content teaching decolonized history in engaging ways. Use social media activism to push for education reform. Final thoughts. Decolonizing Jamaica's education system isn't just about removing colonial influences. It's about empowering the next generation with knowledge of self. The goal is to create leaders, thinkers, and innovators who embrace their roots and shape Jamaica's future on their own terms. Yes, not because Trump tell we say get rid of Cuban doctors because him not like Cuba and because Cuba go join BRICS. No country not get the right to tell we how to do our thing. Me not depend that. That is why me I make that video here. Cause it ties in perfectly to everything what just happened. So when you see the CARICOM revolution, I call it a CARICOM revolution because Mia Motley, Dr. Rowley, Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, and many other Caribbean leaders were standing up and fighting against neocolonialism and economic colonization from a former colonizer. Jamaica sold out the CARICOM revolution by not standing with the rest of the CARICOM leaders. Remember, we see when Prime Minister Andrew Holness get the call from Marco Rubio, I wonder what that call was about. Suddenly after, we see threats of visa restrictions start circulate from the US State Department. Go up on their website, it's there. Yeah, Jamaica sell out the revolution. That's what you get when you keep and maintain a colonized education. Sellouts and backstabbers. Here's a summary of the highlights and the key points. Jamaica's education system is still rooted in colonial values. Figures like Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, and Walter Rodney fought for mental emancipation. A decolonized curriculum would teach African and Jamaican history, literature, and philosophy. Resistance exists, but other countries have already started decolonizing their education. The future of Jamaica's education depends on the people demanding change. When you have leaders who assimilate to being a part of the status quo, they become agents of the colonial system that was set in place to keep us perpetually enslaved through the education system. So then take a chain and shackles off away, body physically, but mentally, then put a chain on your mind. So it is hard for anyone to even notice, say they are imprisoned because the bars of their prison is invisible. So you cannot know you do something wrong if you don't know that you are doing something wrong. And if you understand what me just say, we have to unlearn and relearn everything that we were taught. Why I think I am so critical of the JLP and the PMP is because I realize our political demagogues, even them too, come to the knowledge and the revelation, say, oh, this happened to we. And instead, them solve the problem, them maintain the colonized education because they benefit from keeping us ignorant and disempowering us. They benefit. Should Shakespeare still be in Jamaican schools, or should we be reading more Marcus Garvey and Bob Marley instead? Drop your thoughts below. Let me educate and enlighten anyone who are listening to this right now. This is the problem with centralized education. What I mean by that is when your government is in control of your education system, that education that you receive is not to empower you. It's to keep you as a follower, not a doer. Notice the only time you see people galvanize and mobilize and go block road and protest are mostly when politicians tell them to do it. Or it done or some bad man tell them say, oh, go block road and burn tire and see them analyze such and such man. But them not do it for their own. Them not do it for them own benefit or of their own free will. The reason why we as a black nation, melanated Africans, are at the bottom of the socio-economic ladder worldwide is because our own leaders still keep us mentally enslaved. The purpose of the education is to maintain the status quo of Bakra. Bakra put an education system in place to keep the slaves perpetually enslaved forever. That is why no matter what your government do, you will never take to the streets and protest against the government because you have received, all of us receive a slave education. Why do you think they not teach about Malcolm X and Marcus Garvey in schools? Things that would actually empower the black race and the black nation to be militant and radical, because we automatically will be the opposition of any government we're going to power, because we are going to hold them accountable at very high standards. So just know, say, your education what you are getting at Jamaica is very subpar or substandard compared to other countries. I know this is going to go over a lot of people's heads, but one day it will sink in and you will eventually get it. You go basic school and them a teach about a diggle cat and the figure and cow jump over moon. That is to dumb you down from an early age. If you can remember that in your adult life. That means if then did give you the definition for quantum physics in the form of a nursery rhyme, or then did give you the definition for nuclear physics in the form of a nursery rhyme, you would still remember the definition. That would be empowering. That would be revolutionary. So you create geniuses out of society. You teach them garbage about hey diggle diggle, have to dumb you down and dumb down the black race. Why the hell am I still remembering something like that when I learn in a basic school? I think a Roman Catholic bishop once said, give me the child from 0 to 7 and he will show you the man. Meaning 0 to 7 are the most formidable and important years of a child. That are when you install the foundation, programming and educational foundations for mold that child into a world conqueror. You never know that. You need to unlearn and relearn a lot of things. You think you make your picnic watch Aquatic, Sesame Street. You think that educate your picnic? That not educate your picnic. That just a brainwash them and that style Schubert and Ernie if you can turn aquatic creatures. Sesame Street is not educational. That's not education. What do you call education? Start teaching a picnic quantum physics definition from them a 3-year-old and nuclear physics from them a 3-year-old and see what that child become. I mean, know this is a little bit too deep of a topic for enough people, but eventually over time, we get it, we understand, we catch up. And I know somebody else say, no, Jamaican education system higher than for America. If that's actually true and that is actually the case, where is something as simple as a major social media platform where you see Africans make and create, where dominate and can take over the world. China make TikTok, we can dominate and take over the world to compete with Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, where Africa are Africans in the diaspora and make and create, where create waves in the geopolitical world. Oh, I'll wait. You see, anything where America can make in a 6 months, Chinese them can make that in a 1 month. Learn that. So when I talk about education system, you don't know what is an education system, go check out what Chinese them a do. Wanna teach out in a basic school, them not teach Chinese speaking that. But I think China is such a global force to be reckoned with, because Chinese start their education from the foundation with the youth from a basic school level. Where you learn out in a basic school, Chinese speaking don't learn that, know that. So the same dumbed down education system where Bakra did left in place when them did a run Jamaica and Africa, our politicians them never changed that education system. They kept and maintained the status quo. So your own people them will look like you, still through the education keep you mentally enslaved and disempowering you every chance they get, so they can rule and control over you as the new slave masters where I work for Bakra and on the behalf of Bakra. That's the reality. One day una go get it. Bakra were the ones who decide say we can't teach them about Marcus Garvey in a school, we can't teach them about Malcolm X and Martin Luther them in a school, and guess what? Your own, after Bakra pull out and left and hand it over to the locals, your own, the said locals them where look like you, maintain that said status quo. We need to decolonize our education system and reform the Ministry of Education to an education that will empower and uplift the melanated Africans. But our leaders are too lazy to do something like that, because our political leaders received the same dumbed down slave education. Our education will never create nation builders or innovators or critical thinkers. That's why our favorite politicians can't innovate, they can't create nothing, they can't maintain nothing. If you could add one Afrocentric subject to the Jamaican school curriculum, what would it be and why? Sound off in the comments. Let's go on a little history about Argentina, because I realize a lot of you are inherently ignorant and I don't know why, but Since we've been miseducated for so long, make we unlearn and relearn. By the late 1700s, nearly 50% of the population in the interior of the country was black, and between 30 and 40% of the population of Buenos Aires was black or mulatto. When asked about Afro-Argentines, most Argentinians believe that Argentina never took part in the slave trade, or that Afro-Argentines left Argentina naturally. Both of these theories are wrong. Former Argentine President Carlos Menem, who once declared in Argentina, blacks do not exist. That is a Brazilian problem. It's widely reported that President of Argentina from 1868 to 1874, Domingo Faustino Sarmiento, undertook a covert genocide that wiped out the Afro-Argentinian population to the point that by 1875 there were so little black people left in Argentina that the government did not even bother registering African descendants in the national census. So for those of you who don't know, Argentina is a slave colony of Spain. Spain is the original Spanish-speaking country. So any country outside of Spain who speaks Spanish is a colony of Spain. Simple. I get it. Everybody loves winners. So even when Messi and my baller come the day when Inter Miami play against Cavalier, Jamaica, me say, black, gold and green, me say, come that day on that match. To how loud me I go cheer and shout for Cavalier every time Inter Miami and Messi get the ball, to how the crowd that cheer for Cavalier, Messi them supposed to shake in a them boots with the entire Inter Miami football team. So it's laughable. Me see una cheer for Messi and Inter Miami against a local football club. Black people, me nah say you cannot be a fan of Messi. Nothing wrong with Messi. Me nah no issue with Messi. Me nah downplay in greatness, none at all. He's a great footballer. He's very skillful. But on that me I talk about is the fact that uno hate uno self so much. This level of self-hatred deserve its own research project. Uno rather see the local team lose, so uno can say, yeah, Messi come to Jamaica, come mash them up. You would never live to hear one Argentine say that. You think Jamaica can go Argentina, go play football and you hear them a cheer for Jamaica? You will never live to see that happen. Uno keep yourself ignorant of real historical facts. Uno support people where no like a bone in a uno, they no want sue uno, they no love uno. I can never understand that. This level of ignorance deserves its own research project. I'm not saying you fi stop be a fan of Messi, I know that me I say, but there's no way you're supposed to dash away your national pride. Where is the patriotism? Where is the black nationalism? And that me I defend. Big up to Messi, big baller, great baller, skillful baller. None of that me I talk about. We are talking about how much we have been miseducated by Bakra, that we would rather see a Bakra looking person come a Jamaica come defeat we and humiliate we on a football field rather than for actually cheer for the home team, because you not believe in the home team, suffering from inferiority complex because white is right. If you're black, stay in the back. Them type of mindset that me have a problem with. You see, when we talk about psychological warfare, it's an attack on the mind, Zine. So don't you find it strange that these Bakra-looking people who colonized and enslaved us gave us a deity, a god that looks exactly like them? Remember, this is a foreign religion them are introduced to, Prior to or before meeting these people, you have never heard about this god and this religion before. So it is completely foreign and new to you. But them gear God will look like themselves fi show superiority, fi make you feel inferior. psychological warfare. And this is not me bashing Christianity or an attack on Christianity. Me just attack the facts as it is. Me just attack the truth. This is decolonizing or the decolonization process where you have to go through. If you truly step away from the mental enslavement that happened during slavery. If you want to remain a slave, by all means, do so. Realistically, we all know say God no white. But ask yourself the question, why did they give us a God where white will look like them? Because when you bow down and worship to that white image in the form of Jesus or Jehovah, which are one and the same, you are actually worshiping European. You are worshiping the Caucasians. Because God no look like that. You see the psychological trick now? You get it now? Hence, this is why you see black people have this special reverence for white people, or anytime they see white people, it's like them see God. And this ties back perfectly into how me see una go on over Messi. When una should have cheer for the local team and show up in a Cavalier jersey. So una support, una take una money go give Inter Miami and go buy them jersey, which that club is most likely owned by a Bakra looking person. So una spend no money with Bakra, but una no spend no money for wear and buy and support the local club jersey. Make it make sense. This level of self-hatred and sellout behavior deserves its own research project. This is why we need to decolonize the education system and stop the mental enslavement of the melanated African race. And trust me get it. Of course, people are going to go there to go see Messi and Luis Suarez them in a real life, because we only see them on TV and on YouTube. I get it. Me no have no problem with that. Me woulda want go there go see Messi play in a real life as well. But me nah go there go support him, and me nah go there go cheer for him, and me nah go there go pray for see the demise and downfall of Cavalier, the local Jamaican football team. And the mindset me a talk about, and the mindset me have an issue with. So it is okay if you go there go see him and want to see him in a real life. That is understandable. It's the psychology behind the mindset, the subconscious programming we receive through the colonial slave education system that led us to a outcome like that, where you can see Africans a cheer against their own and a cheer for somebody will look like Bakra. And the mindset me have a problem with, you know. You don't come like the whole stadium did a cheer for Messi. That outroar should have been cheering for Cavalier and the Cavalier football players. Do you know how that's supposed to feel to have your own local people a cheer against you in the national stadium? Emphasis on the word national, because there was no national pride. Luckily, if I did some players, it would affect their mental state and it would have throw them off of their game. When the fans are support the local ball of them, it lifts them up. It pushes them to try win and dominate the game and play the best. Uno actually cheered against Cavalier Football Club. Uno did a prayer for Messi, beat them embarrassingly. Uno don't support uno own. It's a black people problem. Every other race support their own people. Trust me.